Good afternoon. Welcome to Live at 5. My name is Mark Hundley, and I'm coming to you today back in Plano, Texas. The last three Live at 5s we've done from the southeast corner of the Panhandle, Memphis, Texas. We have a little house up there and did a little work on the house, did a little visiting with my aunt and uncle. I think I told you that my uncle by marriage is one of the survivors, I think about 7 or 8 remaining survivors of the USS Indianapolis disaster back in 1945. This year is the 75th anniversary of that disaster, so if you haven't done any kind of looking up the USS Indianapolis, you might look that up a little bit. There were only 317 people who survived 5 days in the Pacific Ocean after their ship being sunk in the middle of the night, and he happened to be one of those 316 or 17, and now he's one of only 7 remaining. He's 96 years old, and so we had a little time to spend with him. Today, I have no distractions. I'm back in my little room. I'm all locked up, so I don't think this bald-headed guy. You know, you have people say squirrel, and you go off track. Well, sometimes my bald-headed ADD does become distracted. It happened a little bit yesterday. That's why I had to postpone to live at 5:15. But today I want to talk a little bit about another person's nightmare or the nightmare of another. Now, these are some prepared remarks, and I'll do a little bit of ad-libbing as necessary, but I wanted to share these with you because this is something that I think is very, very important, particularly in the day and time in which we live. There are lots of people right now living a nightmare existence, and as much as I think what happens with media, if you study media, there's only so much time that the human brain and the human emotions and the human psyche can absorb bad news, can absorb tragedy, can absorb trauma. And we've been hit with it daily, many times, multiple times in a day. And so our brain begins to shut down, our feelings begin to shut down, we begin to shut down a little bit and begin to move those tragedies that we see to the side. But very often, there are lots of people who suffer and are living through a nightmare right now. So my attempt today is to talk about the nightmare of another and how we, as human beings, can be involved in that process. So let's bear with me here a little bit. Finding and living life purpose is something most of us hold on to dearly. It begins in childhood when interested adults ask us, and I know you've had this happen. So what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to do when you grow up? I had all kinds of ideas of what I wanted to do and be when I grew up. We have all kinds of answers. Generally, those answers change many, many times through the years and along the path. When we enter high school, then that becomes a bit more serious. The question takes on more weight. Our answers often reflect when we start being asked that question during that time. Our answers often reflect a childhood or adolescence trying on various professional costumes to see which one fits the best. As we graduate high school, we have options. Generally, it's military, the job market, college, or some sort of professional training or technical training school. This what do we want to be when we grow up question tends to find its answer on the B side of the equation, the BE side of the equation. Rarely does the question approach the purpose side of the equation. In all fairness, asking a question of a child or adolescent that deals with life purpose likely never crosses our mind. And perhaps one reason is that many adults fail to ask that question of themselves. During my time on this planet, and that's quite a few years, I've discovered that many times a question of purpose comes only after the experience of some life tragedy or difficulty. People who have faced the ugliness or trauma or confusion of life often ask such purpose questions. Why this? Why me? What am I going to do? What's the purpose of this? Why did this happen to me? Without life challenges, the purpose question can often take a fame or fortune track. You know, it's like sometimes people believe that their primary purpose in life is to achieve some aspect of fame or fortune because they've never really embraced the challenges of life. There are times, however, that regardless of the framework in which the question is posed, the answer takes us to places of discomfort and service. You see, sometimes we must step into the nightmare of another in order to fulfill our purpose. Human suffering and misfortune are all around us. All we have to do is look around and see. At times, this suffering and misfortune can appear overwhelming, completely overwhelming. When this happens, we often find ways to ignore or deny or avoid acknowledging such. And then there are other times, the times when the discovery of life purpose is tied directly to the nightmare of someone else. It is then that mustering the courage to step into the middle of that nightmare becomes life's greatest challenge. Stepping into that nightmare carries no guarantees of success. There just aren't any. Stepping into that nightmare carries no assurances of safety. That goes away. Stepping into that nightmare carries no predictable outcome. There's no way that we can know exactly what's going to happen. We can't guarantee a complete 100% outcome. The only thing that stepping into the nightmare of another guarantees is that we fulfill our life's purpose. So, the next time you're faced with the possibility of stepping into the nightmare of another, ask whether this just might be tied to fulfilling your own personal life purpose. It's unsettling, it's uncomfortable, it's distressing, it's scary, but very often people who need us. And in stepping into that nightmare in which they live, we actually create and fulfill that purpose for which we are made. If you want to read a little bit more, I dabble in some short fiction, and if you were to go to Amazon and it's a Kindle version, if you were to go to Amazon and look me up and look up Amazon books, Kindle books, you would find a little short story. Cost 99 cents. I mean, gee, we waste $1 just about every day, and I'm not going to get rich on $1, I promise you. But if you have an interest in maybe a story that talks more and dives deeper into this whole process of stepping into the nightmare of another, you might visit Amazon Books and look up Darklight, Darklight, Darklight. It's a tale of purpose, and I would just invite you to have a little fun with it. There's some questions at the end of it. You know how much I like to ask questions, but gosh, it's been a really, really difficult last couple of days traveling back and forth and scrambling to get things together, but I'm glad to be home. I'm glad to see you from Plano. I really appreciate you hanging with me yesterday, hanging with me today. I hope that you'll come back tomorrow for Live at 5, and let's make a difference in this world. Thank you. Take care and peace.